So good afternoon. The hour of noon having arrived, and pursuant to the Constitution of the State of California, the organizational session for the 2025-26 regular session of the California Assembly will be called to order. I am Sue Parker, the Assembly Chief Clerk. Pursuant to the Government Code, I will be presiding over this portion of the session. Please silence all cell phones and electronic devices during today's session. Also, we will defer the introduction of guests until after the election of a speaker. The first order of business is the roll call of the Assembly members-elect. The clerk will please call the roll.
Addis, Aguiar-Curry, Aarons, Alanis, Alvarez, Arambula, Avila Farias, Baines, Bauer-Cahan, Bennett, Berman, Berner, Bonta, Bryan, Calderon, Caloza, Carrillo, Castillo, Chen, Connolly, Davies, DeMaio, Dixon, El Hawari, Isali, Flora, Fong, Gabriel, Gallagher, Garcia, Gibson, Jeff Gonzalez, Mark Gonzalez, Hadwick, Haney, Harabedian, Hart, Hoover, Irwin, Jackson, Calra, Krell, Lackey, Lee, Lowenthal, Macedo, McKinner, Mersucci, Quinn, Ortega, Pacheco, Papin, Patel, Patterson, Pellerin, Petrie Norris, Perk Silva, Ramos, Ransom, Rivas, Celeste Rodriguez, Michelle Rodriguez, Rogers, Rubio, Sanchez, Schiavo, Schultz, Sharp Collins, Solace, Soria, Stephanie, Ta, Tangipa, Valencia, Wallace, Ward, Wicks, Wilson, Zabur.
A quorum is present. Without objection, a request from Assemblymember-elect Rivas to suspend Assembly Rule 118 to allow guests, designated staff, and photographers on the floor shall be granted. Without objection, a request from Assemblymember-elect Aguiar-Curry to suspend Assembly Rule 45.5 to allow her and Assemblymember-elect Rogers to speak on an adjournment in memory today shall be granted. We ask the members-elect and guests to please stand for the prayer and pledge of allegiance. The afternoon's prayer will be given by Assemblymember-elect Rhodesia Ransom, representing the 13th Assembly District. Assemblymember-elect Ransom.
Good afternoon. Please center your hearts and minds and join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We come before you with gratitude for the privilege to serve the people of California. We are grateful for the hearts of those called to serve and for their dedication to the betterment of our state. Lord, we ask that you bless every member of this body, both old and new, with wisdom to discern, courage to act with integrity, and strength to persevere in the face of challenges. Guide our decisions and guard our hearts and minds. Keep us focused on the well-being of those we represent. Grant strength to our leadership as they guide us toward success and help us remain joyful and steadfast in our shared purpose. We lift the families and friends who support us, and we thank you for their unwavering encouragement, patience, and love as they walk alongside us on this journey. Bless them with peace, strength, and the assurance that we see and appreciate their sacrifices and care. We give thanks for the mentors, staff, and colleagues who equip us to lead with impact and effectiveness. May we never take their efforts for granted, and may their contributions be a testament to the power of unity and shared purpose. Lord, as we take on the challenges facing our state, Instill in us a spirit of collaboration and a resolve to find meaningful solutions, setting aside divisions and labels. Remind us that no task is too great when we look to you. Give us the humility to listen, empathy to understand, and perseverance to make a difference in the lives of those who are called to serve. Let us not grow weary in our work. Give us daily strength and passion to meet the needs of our communities. And finally, may the work that we do and all that we accomplish be acceptable in your sight. Amen.
Thank you. Please continue standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The pledge will be led by Assemblymember-elect Patrick Ahrens of the 26th Assembly District. Assemblymember Ahrens, you are recognized.
Thank you. Members and guests, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Assemblymember-elect Vince Savong has indicated he will not be taking the oath of office for Assembly District 32. Assemblymember-elect Mirasucci is absent and will be noted in the journal and will also not be taking the oath at this moment. And without objection, the absence will be printed in the journal. The next order of business is a certificate of election from the Secretary of State. There is a letter at the desk from the Secretary of State's Chief of Elections and a report listing the candidates and vote totals for each Assembly District. Without objection, the letter shall be deemed read and printed in the journal. We will now move to administering the oath of office to the Assembly members-elect. The process for administering the oath is referred to as roll by counties. It's a process that dates back to 1852. The reading clerk will read a list of all 58 counties in alphabetical order. The Assembly members-elect representing that county or counties should stand and remain standing until the roll is completed. The clerk will now call the roll by counties.
Alameda, Alpine, Amador, Butte, Calaveras, Colusa, Contra Costa, Del Norte, El Dorado, Fresno, Glenn, Humboldt, Imperial, Inyo, Kern, Kings, Lake, Lassen, Los Angeles, Madera, Marin, Mariposa, Mendocino, Merced, Modoc, Mono, Monterey, Napa, Nevada, Orange, Placer, Plumas, Riverside, Sacramento, San Benito, San Bernardino, San Diego, San Francisco, San Joaquin, San Luis Obispo, San Mateo, Santa Barbara, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, Shasta, Sierra, Siskiyou, Solano, Sonoma, Stanislaus, Sutter, Tehama, Trinity, Tulare, Tuolumne, Ventura, Yolo, Yuba.
The oath of office will be administered simultaneously to all assembly members-elect by me. So members-elect for the office of member of the assembly, please remain standing, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. And I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations, members. Members, please sign the oaths that were just passed out to you and leave them in the folders that are on your desk. We will collect them upon adjournment of session. So once again, please sign the oaths that were just distributed and handed out to you, and then leave them in the green folders on your desk, and we will pick them up after session. The next order of business is the nomination and election of the Speaker of the Assembly for the 2025-26 regular session. Members giving the nominating and seconding speeches should raise their microphones at this time. Assemblymember Soria, you are recognized.
Thank you. I rise today to proudly nominate Robert Rivas as Speaker for the 2025-2026 regular session. Robert's story reflects the very best of California. He was raised in a small agricultural community by a single mom and grandparents who were farm workers who did not have a lot financially, but worked hard and believed in the California dream. His story is the story of many of us here on the floor and the story of families across the state. It is no wonder why, when I first met him, we had an instant connection. And I was excited that we would finally, 25 years later, again, have a speaker from a rural part of the state of California, representing regions that historically had been underserved and overlooked. His track record of advocating for his community and his ability to build broad coalitions proved to me that not only was he the right person to lead this legislative body, but he had what it took to lead us with purpose, conviction, and integrity. I saw his leadership firsthand when he helped ensure the passage of the Distress Hospital Loan Program to save hospitals across the state, including Madera Community Hospital, or when we worked together to secure $40 million to provide emergency relief to farm worker communities impacted by flooding that otherwise would not get any federal relief money because of their immigration status. He did all of this and more without expecting any recognition. He did it because it was the right thing to do. In his first term as Speaker, he earned our trust and proved himself to be a leader that listens, knows how to compromise, and who can bring people together from both sides of the aisle and from all corners of our state to move California forward. He did not shy away from solving tough issues. For example, making sure that this body passed both a bipartisan retail theft package and a bipartisan climate bond that included investments for ag. And he made sure during the budget process that we not only balanced the budget, but we protected critical investments that were a priority to this body. He doesn't back down and always has our back. Now more than ever, we must be laser focused on making sure our families can achieve the California dream and the American dream. This is why we need strong and a principled leader that has proved he will do the work to find common sense solutions to address the affordability crisis that is making it tough to achieve that California dream. But we also need someone that will not hesitate to put up a fight when we need it. I know Robert will not hesitate when it comes to our immigrant families, our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, and other marginalized communities. I believe Robert embodies the values, vision, and leadership we need today, especially with changes in Washington that will put to test our shared California values. And for these reasons, I nominate my friend and seatmate, Robert Rivas, to lead us and continue to serve as Speaker of the Assembly. I ask for your aye vote today.
Thank you, Assemblymember Soria. Is there a second? Assemblymember Jackson, you are recognized to second the nomination.
Madam Clerk, I rise to second this nomination. Robert Rivas is the right leader for such a time as this, a time when California faces multiple issues at the same time, a time when far too many Californians are in survival mode, a time when future generations will not do better than their parents for the first time in American history. This is a time when this body, the People's House, is in need of a thoughtful leader, a leader who is a great listener, a leader with vision, and is clear-eyed on the direction this state needs to go, and a leader who can navigate the multiple type A personalities on this floor, who all think their answer is the right answer, such as myself. Mr. Speaker, I'm always right. But yet can unite us for a common purpose. That leader is Robert Rivas. Already, with only just over a year as our Speaker, he has returned the Assembly to its rightful place as a co-equal branch of government in California, because he understands that our democracy simply does not work to its fullest potential unless all of our institutions fulfill its full constitutional responsibility of checks and balances. And most importantly, Mr. Rivas is laser focused on the issues facing everyday Californians who make this state a global leader. Throughout my first term, whether it's been budget negotiations, policy debates, floor votes, or any number of issues that come before us, Robert has shown the humility and leadership only reserved for a few who have been able to serve this body as its speaker. Therefore, I look forward to the leadership of a Speaker Rivas as our country continues to be divided, because I believe our nation's citizens will be looking towards their own state capitals for additional leadership, assistance, and protection, which is why this nomination is so important. Robert Rivas understands that California is a place where we push for the equality, for equal protection of all people, where we look to repair the wrongs of our past, that we teach all of our history, and we stand up and get in the way every time anyone uses the dark forces of politics to delay the arc of justice. It is with this conviction that I'm proud to stand here today to support the nomination of Robert Rivas to continue serving as the leader of one of the most diverse and democratic institutions, not just in this country, but in the world. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Assemblymember Jackson. Assemblymember Patel, you are recognized to second the nomination.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Today, I rise to second the motion presented by my colleague from Merced in support of my colleague from Salinas, Robert Rivas, as Speaker of the People's House, our California State Assembly. Over the past year, I've had the privilege of getting to know Robert Rivas. I've witnessed his thoughtful, strategic, and compassionate approach to addressing the diverse needs of communities across the state. He embodies the qualities of a unifying leader, the leader we need as we face budgetary challenges here in Sacramento and economic challenges in our own districts. I've sat beside him in meetings in my community and seen how he skillfully brings together people on opposing sides of an issue, all while remaining steadfast in upholding our shared democratic values. While I may be new to my role here, I'm not new to public service. Like my colleague from Salinas, I served in local representative government before walking in these hallowed halls. Overcoming personal hardships and delivering results for those in need, those are the hallmarks of a great leader. My colleague not only brings the experience and perspective required to lead this body through complex policy decisions, but he also demonstrates the character and mindset to do so with grace. The people of the 76th Assembly District have entrusted me with the honor of serving them, and I seek a leader who will empower me to fulfill that responsibility. I'm confident that he will empower all of us to craft high-quality legislation and ensure that the policies we advance in this body are well-resourced for effective implementation. With our colleague, Robert Rivas, as Speaker, I believe that together we can achieve more, reach further, and serve better. For these stated reasons and more, I respectfully request you to join me in supporting the nomination of Robert Rivas as Speaker of our Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Patel. Assemblymember Berman, you're recognized for your second.
I rise to second the nomination of Robert Rivas to serve as Speaker of the Assembly for the 2025-2026 legislative session. I've had the honor of serving with Speaker Rivas since he was first elected to the Assembly 6 years ago. And as I have watched him interact with his colleagues, first as a peer and lately as a leader, I've come to appreciate his leadership style more and more. I have personally seen Speaker Rivas put the good of his caucus and the good of this Assembly ahead of his own personal self-interest. I've seen him seek compromise and consensus when he no longer needed to, because he knew that would be better for the greater good. I've seen him lean in during difficult and passionate policy debates, bringing opposing sides together to find common ground and come to agreement on a path forward. Speaker Rivas has made it a priority to develop relationships with all of his colleagues from both sides of the aisle and look for bipartisan opportunities for success. In an era when so many are more interested in social media stardom than they are substantive success for their constituents, Speaker Rivas is focused on what really matters, improving the lives of all Californians. He doesn't measure success by the number of followers he has or retweets he gets, but by the number of houses we build and people we help. You won't see him getting the quote of the day for a hot take on a partisan issue that everyone will forget about tomorrow. You will see him meeting with farm workers and teachers and small business owners, seeking out ways that we can improve their lives. I'm entering my 9th year in the Assembly. All of a sudden, I'm one of the old-timers. I've seen the flashy efforts that get all the attention but quickly fizzle out. And I've seen the work that happens behind the scenes that gets very little attention, but that makes a real and positive difference in people's lives. Speaker Rivas is focused on substance, on raising people up, and it is my honor to support his nomination to continue being our Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblymember Berman. Are there any further nominations for the office of Speaker of the Assembly? Assemblymember Lackey, you are recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. Members, we're living in a very exciting and a unique period of time. Do we have the courage to give a unique voice to unity by considering leadership from a member of the superminority? Colleagues, I rise to nominate a speaker, a leader who embodies the principles and vision our state is absolutely crying for. Assemblymember, Republican leader, James Gallagher. California is at a crossroads. We face unprecedented issues that demand not just any leadership, but courageous, principled, and visionary leadership. I submit to you that Assembly Gallagher is that leader. In this chamber, leadership should be measured by outcomes, and Leader Gallagher has delivered time and time again with outcomes. When it comes to protecting public safety, Leader Gallagher has been a relentless advocate for common sense reforms that keeps our communities safe, while also ensuring that justice is served. He has stood up to efforts to sabotage Prop 36 by defending the will of the people and the critical reforms it absolutely represents. Leader Gallagher understands that real public safety requires a balanced approach, one that holds criminals accountable while addressing root causes and reducing recidivism. Leader Gallagher has also stood as a steadfast defender of the balance of power in our state. I know that's hard to think of balance when there's a supermajority. In the face of executive outreach, he's fought to restore the legislature's role as a co-equal branch of government, not a rubber stamp for the governor's edicts. Sorry, sir, I know you're back there. When it was pushing back against unilateral mandates or demanding accountability from the governor, Leader Gallagher has proven he will fight for the rights of every Californian. Leader Gallagher has led the fight to bring down the costs that are crushing working families in this great state. From addressing the housing crisis to bringing down gas and utility prices to reducing taxes, fees, Leader Gallagher understands that government should encourage opportunity, not stand in the way. He's consistently advanced solutions to ease the financial burdens on Californians and ensure that prosperity is within reach for all of us. Good government reforms are another hallmark of Leader Gallagher's leadership. He's advocated for greater transparency, efficiency, and accountability on how we govern. He knows that trust in government must be earned, and he has worked tirelessly to ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent wisely and ethically. Leader Gallagher's leadership was tested during and after the Camp Fire, one of the most devastating wildfires in California history. In the face of unimaginable loss and destruction, he rose to that occasion, offering steady leadership, compassion, and unwavering advocacy for his constituents. He fought tirelessly for resources to rebuild homes, infrastructure, and livelihoods. Leader Gallagher's strength and empathy during this crisis are a testament to his character and dedication to the people he serves. Colleagues, leadership requires bold action, principled vision, and a relentless commitment to the people that we serve. And I submit to you that Leader Gallagher holds all those qualities. He has delivered results for our caucus and for all Californians. He's ready to lead us forward in this critical moment. It's with great pride that I nominate our Republican leader, James Gallagher, for Speaker of the Assembly, and I ask you to please consider sending a shocking, unifying message to Californians that even a superminority member deserves a chance to lead this distinguished body. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Lackey. Is there a second? Assemblymember Flora, you are recognized to second the nomination.
Thank you, Madam. I rise and simply to support our friend, our Republican leader, Assemblymember James Gallagher, for Speaker of this body.
Thank you, Assemblymember Flora. Are there further nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed for the office of Speaker of the Assembly. The long-standing custom and practice of the House is to conduct an oral roll call vote for the office of Speaker of the Assembly. I will direct the reading clerk to call the roll, and when your name is called, please signify by loudly saying the name of the member you are voting for as Speaker. The clerk will call the roll for the office of Speaker.
Addis. Addis, Rivas. Aguiar Curry. Aguiar Curry, Rivas. Aarons. Aarons, Rivas. Alanis. Alanis, Gallagher. Alvarez. Alvarez, Rivas. Arambula. Arambula, Rivas. Avila Farias. Avila Farias, Rivas. Baines. Baines, Rivas. Bauer Cahan. Bauer Cahan, Rivas. Bennett. Bennett, Rivas. Berman. Berman, Rivas. Berner. Berner, Rivas. Bonta. Bonta, Rivas. Bryan. Bryan, Rivas. Calderon. Calderon, Rivas. Caloza. Caloza, Rivas. Carrillo. Carrillo, Rivas. Castillo. Castillo, Gallagher. Chin. Chin, Gallagher. Connolly. Connolly, Rivas. Davies. Davies, Gallagher. DeMaio. DeMaio, Gallagher. Dixon. Dixon, Gallagher. El Harari. El Harari, Rivas. Isali. Isali, Gallagher. Flora. Flora, Gallagher. Fong. Fong, Rivas. Gabriel. Gabriel, Rivas. Gallagher. Gallagher, Gallagher. Garcia. Garcia, Rivas. Gibson. Gibson, Rivas. Jeff Gonzalez. Jeff Gonzalez, Gallagher. Mark Gonzalez. Mark Gonzalez, Rivas. Hadwick. Hadwick, Gallagher. Haney. Haney, Rivas. Harabedian. Harabedian, Rivas. Hart. Hart, Rivas. Hoover. Hoover, Gallagher. Irwin. Irwin, Rivas. Jackson. Jackson, Rivas. Cora. Cora, Rivas. Krell. Krell, Rivas, Lackey, Lackey, Gallagher, Lee, Rivas, Lowenthal, Rivas, Macedo, Gallagher, McKinner, Rivas, Murasucci, Huen, Rivas, Ortega, Rivas, Pacheco, Rivas, Papin, Rivas, Patel, Rivas, Patterson, Gallagher, Pellerin, Rivas, Petrie Norris, Rivas, Quirk Silva, Rivas, Ramos, Rivas, Ransom, Rivas, Celeste Rodriguez, Rivas, Michelle Rodriguez, Rivas, Rogers, Rivas, Rubio, Rivas, Sanchez, Gallagher, Schiavo, Rivas, Schultz, Rivas, Sharp Collins, Rivas, Solache, Rivas, Soria, Rivas, Stephanie, Rivas, Ta, Gallagher, Tangipa, Gallagher, Valencia, Rivas, Wallace, Gallagher, Ward, Rivas, Wicks, Rivas, Wilson, Rivas, Zabur, Rivas.
The roll is now closed. The clerk has tallied the vote. For Robert Rivas, 59 votes. For James Gallagher, 19 votes. Robert Rivas is elected Speaker for the 2025-26 session. Congratulations, Speaker Rivas. I'm appointing the following members to escort Speaker-elect Rivas, along with his family, to the rostrum for the oath of office. Please retire to the rear of the chamber as your name is called. Assembly members: Mark Gonzalez, Sharp Collins, Caloza, Solache, El Haweri, and Hadwick. I ask the Chief Justice Guerrero to step forward to administer the oath.
Well, welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to be here with you all. And I want to welcome the many leaders and the dignitaries that are here with us today, beginning with our governor, Mr. Gavin Newsom. Our Attorney General, Rob Bonta. Our Secretary of State, Shirley Weber. Our Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Tony Thurman. We have Treasurer Fiona Ma and State Controller Malia Cohen. Also with us are a couple of former speakers, Mr. John Perez. And I know Antonio Villaraigosa is here as well. We have a couple of former members of Congress, Ms. Connie Conway, and of course, my own member of Congress when I was growing up, Mr. Sam Farr, former member of this institution. And we also have so many former members of this body, of this assembly. We have mayors from throughout our state, local elected officials. And certainly we are all very honored that you are here. So thank you. And colleagues, thank you for your trust and for your faith in me. Last year, it was my deep honor to undertake the responsibilities of Speaker of the California State Assembly. And now as then, I am filled with gratitude, with pride. And I'm proud to lead an assembly that is the most diverse legislative body in America. We're diverse in our ideas, our priorities, and in our lived experiences. I'm proud that this legislative class boasts the greatest number of women legislators in the history of our state. I'm proud to see so many familiar faces here today. To all our incumbents, welcome back. Break is never as long as we would like it to be, but welcome back. It is always an honor to work with you, and certainly look forward to working with you again. And joining us this session, there are 23 new Assembly members. So please join me in giving them a very, very warm welcome to this Assembly. I also want to acknowledge our wonderful families, our children and loved ones here today. Thank you, every one of you. And to my own family, my wife, my kids, my mom, thank you all. Every Assembly member owes a great debt to our families, a great debt for their care, their patience, their sacrifice, and for their unwavering support. Again, thank you. We couldn't do this job without you. And colleagues, our constituents told us two very important things in November. First, they continue to believe deeply in California's values of tolerance, of equality, and of human rights by enshrining abortion rights in our last election and same-sex marriage in this one. But second, our constituents, they don't feel that the state of California is working for them. That's their lived experience in this moment. Californians are deeply anxious They're anxious about our state's cost of living. They're anxious about the challenges of doing business here. And they're anxious because they feel it. They feel it at the grocery store when they have to pay their bills. They feel it every time they fill up their gas tank for their long commutes from work to home. And they absolutely feel it when trying to imagine buying and owning a home right here in the state that they love. So our task this session is urgent and it's clear. We must chart a new path forward and renew the California dream by focusing on affordability. Let's not forget that California is unlike anywhere else. We are and always will be America's destination for dreams and opportunities. It's California. We embody the spirit of possibility, of resiliency, and of innovation. That's why 1 in 8 Americans, 1 in 8, calls California home. It's why we have one of the world's largest and strongest economies. It's why the greatest talents, the biggest thinkers make their homes and build their businesses right here. It's why my own family is writing our story here in California. Most of you know, I grew up in farm worker housing, raised by my mom, who's a single parent, and my grandparents. They worked the fields in a cannery to make ends meet. The anxiety that many Californians are feeling right now, asking themselves, can I pay the rent next month? Do I have to cut back on groceries? Can I afford to pay my electric bill? I know that anxious feeling because I can remember it in the pit of my stomach from my own childhood growing up in Piscinas. And there are others in this room who I know remember that feeling too. California will always be a place of opportunity, always. But that opportunity, it must shine equally for everyone in every corner of this great state. And for Californians like Jonathan Lamb, who runs Pegasus Bakery in South Sacramento with his wife Cynthia, who I believe are here today in the gallery. That opportunity can feel out of reach. They work tirelessly to keep prices affordable for their customers, even as the cost of doing business, even as the essential baking ingredients that they need continues to rise. It's small business owners like Jonathan and Cynthia who need our support. It's Californians like Salvador and Ofelia Sanchez, farm workers from the Central Coast who spent decades in the fields before becoming school janitors. Now they're in their 70s, and they find themselves unable to afford the cost of housing. And to make ends meet, Salvador, he has returned to work, this time at a local Jack in the Box. Jonathan and Cynthia, Salvador and Ofelia, they represent millions of Californians in every one of our communities. People who work hard, who give back, and who dream of a better future right here in California. And that's why I'm calling on us to consider every bill this session through their lens. Does it lower day-to-day costs for families? Does it build more housing quickly? Does it improve public services in ways that people can actually see and feel? Does it help small businesses start and thrive? Everyone in this room has good and important ideas. We're all passionate and committed, and I have the greatest respect for you. But we all know that our time and energy here are limited. And so this session, we are lowering the number of bills legislators can carry and introduce from 50 to 35. And we're doing so because we want every leader in this room to have the greatest possible bandwidth to focus on laws that uplift affordability and prosperity. Now, make no mistake, this will not prevent us from standing up for California's values. if LGBTQ people come under attack, if hardworking immigrants are targeted, if women's reproductive freedom is threatened, we will fight back with everything we have. The country looks to California for leadership, and we will continue to lead. But our ability to protect these essential California values of equality, of diversity, of opportunity, depends on delivering for constituents in practical, concrete ways. Practical solutions like building more housing for lower and middle class families. Affordable, decent housing isn't a policy challenge. It's not just a policy challenge. It's the civil rights struggle of our time. Every worker has the right to live near their jobs in the communities that they help build, serve, and enrich. And we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to make that a reality. So to every school teacher, landscaper, firefighter, and housekeeper, I say this: whether you work in Pebble Beach or Davis, in Oceanside or San Jose, you should be able to live where you work so that you can spend more time with your families and not on the road commuting. And I will do everything in my power to make that possible. We must do more to lower energy costs. High energy prices hit low Californians the hardest. We know that. Look, California has always led the way on climate change, and we will continue to lead on climate, but not on the backs of poor and working people. Not with taxes or fees for programs that don't work, and not by blocking housing and critical infrastructure projects. It's why we must continue here in the Assembly to be outcome-driven. We can't blindly defend the institutions contributing to these issues. Now, this session, I want our Assembly Utilities and Energy Committee to double down on investigating energy costs. And I'd like our Housing and Budget Committees to investigate and review every state agency that has oversight over California's housing supply. We have to understand what's working and what's obstructing real progress right here in California. It's our responsibility. And finally, we must also ensure that existing state programs are working full speed ahead. As I've said before, our job is not just making new laws, it's looking in the rearview mirror. For example, you look at CalWORKS. Roughly 60% of the families eligible for this important assistance program are enrolled. And then there's CalFresh. About 70% of eligible families are enrolled. That means millions of eligible families, millions of eligible children are missing out on critical financial support and nutritious food. These programs are already built. We have done this good work. Now let's make sure that they're delivering for Californians. To my Republican colleagues, I am always open to every good idea that will improve life for Californians. Let's work together. To my Democratic colleagues, this election was a clarifying moment. But I don't feel discouraged, and I hope you don't either. Clarity gives us a unique opportunity to do more. And I want to stress something important. Focusing on affordability solutions, they are social justice solutions. And to this point, I think of my own story. I grew up with 8 family members, living in a 2-room house right next to Rosa Vineyards, where my grandfather would go work every single day. My grandfather, he often worked 18-hour days, hard work. It was work that broke his body down. My mother and grandmother, They did everything they could to save a little money. They did everything they could to make sure that I made it to school on time each day, that I made it to the doctor when I was sick. They made sure that I made it to college, and that I made it here, the California State Capitol. All of these adults, they just wanted me to have a better life. They worked, they saved, they worried, and they did it for my future. We are all here because the people who came before us opened a door. And now we're the adults in the room. Now that is our job. It's our job to open the door for millions of people who fear that it may be closing. This task is an urgent one because Californians have told us so. This task is urgent because this new administration in Washington, they're going to tell us, they're going to claim that you can only lift people up by tearing others down. We know that there's a better way. It's called the California Dream. Over the next 2 years, we must do everything in our power collectively to renew it. Millions of Californians have put their faith in us. Let's get it done, and let's get to work. Thank you so much. Members, our next order of business is the appointment of the Assembly Speaker Pro Tem. So I'm proud to appoint Josh Lowenthal of the 69th Assembly District to this position. Assembly Speaker Pro Tem Mr. Designee Lowenthal should retire to the rear of the chamber, and the following members should also move to the rear chamber to escort Mr. Lowenthal. It's Assembly members Corral, Celeste Rodriguez, Schultz, and Avila Farias. Escort Committee, please walk Mr. Lowenthal to the rostrum. The Chief Justice will administer the oath of office.
Josh Lowenthal, for the office of Speaker Pro Tem of the Assembly, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that you take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to enter? If so, please affirm your oath by stating, "I do."
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Is this my binder? Is this me? Thank you.
Hi, bud. Congrats.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you so much. Yeah, sure. Oh, let's go. Love you, Mom. Love you, Dad. Olivia, Raquel, Violet, Erica. My brother Danny is here. He's a judge. Knows a thing or two about presiding. I asked him earlier, "You have any advice for me?" He said, "Yeah, really important. Do not screw it up." Thank you for your faith in me, Speaker Rivas. I am so proud to serve in this capacity on your leadership team. Mr. Governor, Madam Lieutenant Governor, General Bonta, Secretary Weber, Treasurer Ma, Controller Cohen, Commissioner Lara, Superintendent Thurmond. Elected leaders past and present from every level up and down our great state, welcome. Welcome to the People's House. This is the People's House. For those of you who might be new, and even for those of you who've been here before, there is this very special feeling. This moment that we're feeling right now, we're living in the moment. We have a world of possibilities with the spotlight on. And this feeling, this is the exact feeling that you will have, I promise, when you get to work on time on Thursday mornings. Members, I am deeply honored and humbled and maybe a tiny bit terrified to chair the work of our House. I first stood here exactly 37 years ago in this spot as a 17-year-old. I was in the YMCA Youth and Government program, and I was elected to preside by my high school peers from across this great state, overseeing the passage of mock legislation in this very chamber, and I remember it like it was yesterday. There's this special energy on the green carpet. It's a magic. It's a magic created by all of us, and it called me the same way that is calling all of us now. Mr. Speaker and members, I thank you today and every day for helping me live out my life's dream. It has now come time to reflect and engage on the work we must achieve on this floor and in this session. We have a fatigued electorate who are clear in their simple directive of us. We must and we should work together. We're expected to try and build consensus and collaborate with anyone and everyone across any divide to solve our state's most intractable problems. And on the green carpet, we should be remarkable not only for our floor speeches, but for our civility, our ability to listen to each other, hear each other, empathize, synthesize perspectives, and to mediate. Because in the end, we're not going to be remembered for being red, blue, or purple. We're not going to be remembered for being good progressives, good mods, or conservatives. Legislative sessions just aren't historic for political wins or losses by one faction or another. They're immortalized in history. They're immortalized in history by their ability to celebrate differences, achieve consensus, and to get things done despite being pushed towards division. Our legacy will be measured for our independent thinking individually as a body, our courage to consider every interest, and yet always do the right thing at every opportunity. And of course, for genuine collaboration and compromise to create policy that truly improves every Californian's quality of life. Members, it is my job and obligation that each of you feel heard, and I will do everything I can to empower each and every one of you every time you're on the green carpet, unless, of course, you're late to 9 a.m. sessions on Thursdays. And with that, it's time for us to get to work. Members, if you have not yet activated the voting mechanism at your desk, please open your desk. There's a key inside your desk. Please take the key out, insert it, and turn your key now. As a reminder, only elected members should be pressing buttons to cast votes. There are several resolutions at the assembly desk, and copies are at your desks, on your desks. Next order of business is going to be the adoption of the House rules. We're going to begin with H.R. 4. Mr. Asali, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Excuse me, Mr. Asali. The clerk will read. H.R. 4, the clerk will read.
House Resolution 4 by Assemblymember Asali relative to the standing rules of the Assembly for the 2025-26 regular session.
Assemblymember Asali, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that we adopt H.R. 4, which will enshrine a minority party Bill of Rights into our standing rules. Now, you may wonder why it might be necessary to do this. Well, I think we all witnessed the events that occurred at the end of last session, the disorder, the chaos, which was widely viewed as undignified, unfair, and unprecedented. I believe that we can agree that those events did not reflect the best of this body, and as the largest state in this union, it is incumbent on us to do better as we move forward. The Republican caucus now represents over 9 million Californians. It's a third of the state. Yes, we are the minority, but the voices, the people that elected us, matter, and they deserve to have their voices heard in this body. Our founding fathers were deeply terrified of two things: a tyranny of a king, and they were also terrified of the tyranny of a mob, a mobocracy. And I know we throw a lot of words around in this body. We throw the word democracy a lot. We are not a democracy. We do not want to be a democracy. Democracy is a mob rule. We are a constitutional republic. That is the oath we just took. That is what we pledge allegiance to every day on this body. And what makes us a constitutional republic is, yes, the majority gets to rule, but the minority has rights. We have rights to be heard and rights to speak and to debate. And I would suggest, in the spirit of the comments of Speaker Rivas and our Speaker Pro Tem, who I do appreciate, acknowledged the tone of wanting to have all voices heard, it is important. And I think it will lead to better policies if we can debate. Nobody has a monopoly on the truth or good policy. Only through debate can we challenge each other's ideas and come to the best conclusions. This bill, H.R. 4, will do 5 specific things. It takes the rules that we're about to vote on, H.R. 1, and it adds 5 rights. 1, the right of the minority leader to make committee appointments, granting the minority leader discretion over the selection, appointment, and removal of members from standing committees. Number 2, the right to bill hearings, which will ensure that every bill introduced receives a hearing at the author's request. Number 3, the right to speech and inquiry, providing that all members in committee receive a minimum of 5 minutes of uninterrupted time to speak, ask questions, and receive responses without interruption from the chairperson. Right number 4, the right to fair floor proceedings, ensuring that debate on important and controversial legislation is not curtailed prematurely and that all members are recognized when they wish to speak. And finally, right number 5, the right to represent without fear of retaliation, to protect members against retaliatory actions against them for their legislative actions, positions, or participation in debate. By adopting these changes, Mr. Speaker, we can enshrine these important rights for the minority party. I think it's especially warranted in a supermajority where we really don't have any other mechanism to challenge the supermajority. All we have are basic rights. So we'd ask, with that, Mr. Speaker, I would ask that we move to adopt H.R. 4.
Thank you, Assemblymember Assaili. There's no second on this. This is a resolution before the House. Madam Majority Leader, you are recognized.
I move to lay the resolution on the table.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Is there a second for this motion? Assemblymember Gibson has seconded. Members, this is a procedural vote to lay House Resolution 4 on the table. Procedural vote. This takes 41 votes. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. The Majority Leader is asking for an aye vote. The Republican Leader is asking for a no vote. Mr. Assaili is asking for a no vote as well. All those vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 57, noes 19. The resolution is laid on the table. Assemblymember DeMaio, you are recognized.
Mr. Speaker, given that the supermajority's rules package is 73 pages long and the minority was not provided a copy of this legislation until we walked in the room today, I hereby move to recess for 1 hour to insist that all members vote or read the resolution before they vote on it.
Thank you, Mr. DeMaio. Mr. DeMaio has made a motion to recess to a time certain, seconded by Assemblymember Sanchez. Members, this is a procedural vote to recess. It takes a majority of those present and voting. The clerk will open the roll. All those vote who desire to vote. Mr. DeMaio is asking for an aye vote. Majority Leader is asking for a no vote. All those vote who desire to vote. All those vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Ayes 19, noes 56. The measure fails. The motion fails. Our next order of business will be House Resolution 1. Assemblymember Pacheco will present House Resolution 1 for the purpose of adoption. The clerk will read.
House Resolution 1 by Assemblymember Pacheco relative to the standing rules of the Assembly for the 2025-26 regular session.
Assemblymember Pacheco, you are recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker and members, I rise to present House Resolution 1, which establishes the standing rules of the Assembly for the 2025-26 regular session. H.R. 1 includes various changes to the standing rules that were in place during the prior session. Some of the changes to the standing rules include revising the general officers of the Assembly, reducing the number of standing committees, and changing the names of the Jobs, Economic Development, and the Economy Committee to the Economic Development, Growth and Household Impact Committee. Clarifying the requirements for the organization of party caucuses to give both leaders greater discretion and flexibility. Clarifying the Speaker's ability to determine the most efficient order of business for floor session to avoid unnecessary delays. Clarifying the adjourn in memory process. Reducing the bill limit to 35. Clarifying that the Budget Committee may meet at any time. Clarifying the process for floor amendments to allow bills to be amended more efficiently, providing the public with access to the amended bills sooner while retaining the process for consideration of amendments not approved by the specified committee chair. Allowing a bill to be removed from consent on a check-in session day by submitting a written request to the Chief Clerk, Speaker, and Republican Leader. Removing the outdated and unnecessary one-day wait requirement for Assembly bills back on concurrence, since the Constitution requires bills to be in print in final form for 72 hours prior to passage. Clarifying the process for moving a bill to the inactive file. codifying the long-standing process for use of props and visual aids on the assembly floor, revising the language regarding appropriate professional business attire on the assembly floor, clarifying that placards, displays, banners, and signs are not allowed in the gallery, ensuring that all visitors may view floor session, and making a number of other technical and non-substantive changes. The changes will ensure decorum in all legislative proceedings and help the Assembly function over the next 2 years. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblymember Pacheco. Is there any further question or debate on House Resolution 1? Seeing none, Assemblymember Pacheco, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblymember Pacheco. We will take a roll call vote on House Resolution 1. This resolution requires 41 votes. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll and tally the vote. Ayes 58, noes 19. The resolution is adopted. Majority Leader Aguiar-Curry will present House Resolution 2 on behalf of the Speaker for purposes of adoption. Clerk will read House Resolution 2.
House Resolution 2 by Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas relative to the election of officers of the Assembly for the 2025-26 regular session.
Majority Leader Aguiar-Curry, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, I offer House Resolution 2 on behalf of Speaker Robert Rivas to designate the non-member officers of the Assembly for the 2025-26 regular session. They are Sue Parker as Chief Clerk and Cheryl Kraft as Chief Sergeant at Arms. Sue Parker is the Chief Clerk from the previous session and is returning for another term as clerk, overseeing the desk staff and the engrossing and enrolling department. Prior to her appointment as Chief Clerk, she served over 20 years in the clerk's office. Cheryl Kraft is currently the Chief Deputy Sergeant at Arms and is being promoted to the position of Chief Sergeant. Ms. Kraft is an accomplished law enforcement professional with 3 decades of experience. She dedicated 25 years to the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, specializing in dignitary protection for elected officials. For the past 5 years, she has served with the Assembly Sergeant at Arms, the department where she currently holds that position of Deputy Chief of the Security Operations. Ms. Kraft also holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice Management. Mr. Speaker, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Is there any question or debate on House Resolution 2? Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader, you may close.
I simply ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. We will now take a roll call vote on House Resolution 2. This requires 41 votes. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 76, noes 0. The resolution is adopted. Members and guests, we will now move on to the swearing in of our non-member officers, Sue Parker and Cheryl Kraft. Please come forward to the rostrum for your oath of office. Chief Justice Guerrero will administer the oath to the non-member officers.
Sue Parker and Cheryl Kraft for the office of Chief Clerk and Chief Sergeant at Arms, respectively. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to enter. If so, please affirm your oath by saying, "I do."
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'm sorry if I forgot.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Majority Leader Aguilar-Curry will present House Resolution 3 on behalf of Speaker Rivas for the purpose of adoption. House Resolution 3, the clerk will read.
House Resolution 3 by Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas relative to the organization of the Assembly for the 2025-26 regular session.
Madam Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, House Resolution 3 is a routine housekeeping resolution which does the following. It authorizes the Rules Committee, Chief Clerk, and Sergeant of Arms to receive warrants from the Controller to pay members, officers, and the staff of the Assembly. It also requires the Chief Clerk to provide copies of the Assembly weekly histories to specified government offices and accredited press representatives, and specifies that during the organizational recess, no bill can be introduced at the desk except by a person designated in writing by the member, and that designation will be filed with the Chief Clerk. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Is there any question or debate on House Resolution 3? Seeing none, all debate having ceased, Majority Leader Aguilar-Curry, you may close.
Simply ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. We will take a roll call vote on House Resolution 3. This resolution requires 41 votes. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All those vote who desire to vote. All those vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 76, no 0. The resolution is adopted. Members, there are letters at the desk naming the leadership of the Democratic and Republican caucuses who will serve for the 2025-26 regular session. Without objection, the letters will be printed in the journal. Members, a delegation from the Senate is here at the rear of the chamber to inform us that the California State Senate has organized for the 2025-26 regular session. Thank you, Senators Ashby, Daly, Rubio, Grayson, Cervantes, and Padilla. We look forward to working with our Senate colleagues. Members, I am appointing a special committee to proceed to the Senate chamber to inform that the Assembly is organized for the 2025-26 regular session. Committee members are Assemblymember Garcia, Harbidian, Stephanie, Michelle Rodriguez, and Rogers. Assembly members, you may now proceed to the Senate chamber. Assembly members, we will now recess the regular session for the purpose of convening the first extraordinary session. Members, we are now in the first extraordinary session. Without objection, we will substitute the prayer pledge and other orders of business from the 2025 regular session for those items in the first extraordinary session. Members, Governor Newsom has issued a proclamation to convene the legislature in extraordinary session. The proclamation will be deemed read and printed in the journal. The next order of business is the substitution of officers from the regular session for the first extraordinary session. Madam Majority Leader Aguilar-Curry, you are recognized for your procedural motion.
Mr. Speaker, I request unanimous consent that the vote and oath of office for Speaker Robert Rivas on December 2nd, 2024 in the regular session be substituted in the first extraordinary session.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Thank you for your motion. It's seconded by Assemblymember Hart. Seeing and hearing no objection, this motion carries. Robert Rivas is elected Speaker in the first extraordinary session. Madam Majority Leader Aguiar-Curry, you are recognized for your motion of the non-member officers.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the non-member officers in the 2025-26 regular session be deemed the non-member officers in the first extraordinary session, and that the respective oaths in the regular session be substituted in the first extraordinary session.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. This motion requires a second. Motion seconded by Assemblymember Hart. Is there any objection to granting unanimous consent to substitute the non-member officers from the current regular session in the first extraordinary session? Hearing none, the motion carries. Madam Majority Leader, you're recognized for your procedural motion.
I move that the permanent standing rules of the Assembly for the 25-26 regular session, except for the organization of the standing committees which shall be created by the Speaker, be adopted in the first extraordinary session.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. This motion requires a second. Motion seconded by Assemblymember Hart. Is there any objection to granting unanimous consent to substitute the non-member officers from the regular session in the first extraordinary session? Hearing none, the motion carries. Madam Majority Leader, you are recognized for your procedural motion.
I move that the House Resolution 3 in the regular session relative to the bill introductions, controller warrants, and distribution of weekly histories be deemed adopted in the first extraordinary session.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. This motion requires a second, seconded by Assemblymember Hart. Is there any objection to the motion to substitute the provisions of House Resolution 3 in the regular session for the same provisions in the first extraordinary session? Hearing none, the motion carries. Members, there are letters at the desk naming the leadership of the Democratic and Republican caucuses who will serve for the 2025-26 first extraordinary session. Without objection, the letters will be printed in the journal. Members, we have completed the organizational task for the 2025-26 first extraordinary session. Speaker Rivas moves. Assemblymember Hart seconds that the first extraordinary session has recessed upon the call of the Speaker. And just like that, we are back in regular session. Members, I'm appointing a special committee to proceed to the... we've done that. Members, there is a resolution at the desk relative to the appointment of the Legislative Council. Without objection, we will move to that item now. Senate Concurrent Resolution 2 by Senator Umberg. The clerk will read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 2 by Senator Umberg relative to the selection of the Legislative Council of California.
Madam Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, SCR 2 relates to the reappointment of Kara L. Jenkins as the Legislative Council of California. In this role, she will continue to oversee a staff of 500 employees who provide expert, nonpartisan, legal, and technical services to the members of the legislature. Prior to her appointment at the Legislative Council, Ms. Jenkins advised members and staff on legislative procedures, appropriations, the state budget, the Political Reform Act of 1974, election law, litigation, and personal issues, among others. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Is there any discussion or debate on Senate Concurrent Resolution 2? Seeing and hearing none, Majority Leader Aguiar-Curry, you may close.
I ask for your aye vote.
Without objection, we will substitute the attendance roll call for the vote on this item. Hearing no objection, ayes 78, no 0. The resolution is adopted. Members, our Legislative Counsel, Kara Jenkins, is in the rear of the chamber. Please, she's to the right of the rostrum. Members, please join me in congratulating her on her appointment. Moving on to adjournments in memory. For the guests that are in the chamber, this is a very solemn moment. It is a very important moment. We ask for your complete silence and respect. It's common practice for members to adjourn in the memory of distinguished individuals from our districts. Please give your respectful attention to the Majority Leader and Assemblymember Rogers, who were granted prior permission to honor the memory of former Assemblymember Patty Berg. Madam Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise today to adjourn in memory of our colleague, the Honorable Patricia Patty Berg, former North Coast Assembly member and chair of the Legislative Women's Caucus, and the 92nd woman elected to the California State Legislature. She was a vocal advocate for women's issues and spearheaded the state's first of its kind master plan on aging. Patty passed away on November 19th in Eureka, surrounded by the loving and warmth of her friends. She was 82 years old. She was born in Seattle. Patty moved to Humboldt County with her husband, Patrick Murphy, in 1974. Patty was influential in the startup of the Humboldt Senior Resource Center. She worked in the county's public health department and was the founding executive director of the Area 1 Agency on Aging. She served in the California State Assembly from 2002 until 2008. During those 6 years, Patty's integrity earned her the respect and cooperation from members on both sides of the aisle. One of Patty's proudest moments in the legislature was the development of the state's first master plan and policy agenda for older adults. That work still continues today. Patty was also proud of her Death with Dignity legislation in 2005 to 2007. It was part of the foundation for the 2015 end-of-life option signed by Governor Jerry Brown. Patty chaired the Legislative Women's Caucus, and under her leadership, produced the first Working Families Agenda. She worked tirelessly to encourage, to inspire, and to support more women to run for public office. As the current chair of the Women's Caucus, I am proud to continue that legacy. Early in her time in the Assembly, Patty founded the nonpartisan Girlfriends Dinner here in the legislature as a way for the few women Assembly members and senators to support each other. While our members and numbers have grown, the dinner continues as a way of support and lift up each other. Always looking for ways to support newly elected women, Patty created a nonpartisan legislative training program for incoming freshmen to help them get acclimated to their new environment and to bond with one another over common circumstances they would face. Patty was kind. She was generous. She was organized. When she wasn't working to improve the lives of Californians, Patty enjoyed gardening and was a master gardener. Patty is survived by her brother, Danny Berg, and Colleen of Washington, sister Marcia Bowman and Bruce of Florida, stepdaughter Gretchen Taverner and Chris of Montana, stepson Brian Murphy of Idaho, cousin Judy Nick, niece Danielle, nephew Eric, and step-granddaughters Damia and Layla. Her team of really incredible, intimate friends, and her friend and caregiver, Mia Mulhern. Members, I respectfully request that you join me in adjourning in the memory of the Honorable Patty Berg, a member who was fierce, an advocate for her district, and a trailblazer for older adults and women. To number 92, we miss you, and let the bells ring.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Assembly Member Rogers, you are recognized for your adjournment in memory.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker and members, I want to echo the sentiments of my colleague. If Patty Berg's impact in Sacramento was immense, her impact on the North Coast was immeasurable. Prior to her service in this body, Patty served for over 2 decades as the founding executive director for the Area Agency on Aging. To the day that she died, she was a fierce advocate for seniors, access to health care, for women, for equality, And she fundamentally believed in using the power of this body to better the lives not just of all Californians, but for folks who lived on the North Coast. She successfully fought for and saved the Trinity Hospital to make sure that rural communities had better access to health care. She successfully fought for and succeeded in bringing the first reproductive choice Planned Parenthood to Northern California so that folks had access to care. She fought to protect the waterfront in Eureka successfully. She never forgot her roots, and she was a fierce advocate for those who needed an advocate in Sacramento. She will be missed, but she will not be forgotten on the North Coast. Thank you so much for the opportunity to recognize Patty.
Thank you, Assemblymember Rogers. Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. All requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Moving on to announcements. After we adjourn the floor session today, members will have the opportunity to introduce their first legislative measures. I'm ordering the desk to remain open until 4 p.m. today for bill introductions. During the organizational recess, the desk will be open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. until Friday, December 20th to process electronic bill introductions. After adjournment, members of the Legislative Women's Caucus should come to the front of this chamber here for a group photo. We have completed the organizational tasks of the 2025-26 regular session. Upon adjournment of session today, we will begin our organizational recess. The session schedule is as follows. Monday, January 6, 2025, floor session at 1 p.m. Seeing and hearing no further business, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Speaker Rivas moves and Assemblymember Gallagher seconds that the House stands adjourned for the organizational recess pursuant to Joint Rule 51 until Monday, January 6, 2025. At 1 p.m., the quorum call is lifted and we are adjourned.